What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Movie Emporium's TV review of the Apple TV Plus original series, Dark Matter. This will follow the penultimate episode, which is episode 8, which is called Jupiter, and is directed by Alik Sakharov. Okay, guys, I read your comments. I read them thoroughly. I get it. I missed a point. It's fine. You guys very aware. Call me not a reviewer. That's perfectly fine. It's your prerogative. But you know what? I made a mistake. It's the honest thing that happens, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm still gonna review the episode series. So take that for what it's worth. But just to be aware, I did read all the comments, and I'm very aware I missed something. And I still feel that the episode, now that it brings another version of Jason into the mix, really isn't that strong when it comes to the explanation of why Jason came into the mix. And you know what? Maybe I should have waited an episode. I don't know. I still think it's a little convenient, little contrivance when it comes to the idea of the fact that there's never been a point where this has been a thing, and it does. There's someone did say in the comments that it was Jason 6, and it says it in the subtitles. So you know what? I didn't watch it with subtitles. I didn't realize it. I made a mistake. Apologize. You can take it for what it's worth, but that's just kind of where I lean on the last episode. I still think it's a little problematic that it just all of a sudden introduces this new kind of thing, and it does it in kind of a sloppy manner, to be fairly honest. But you know what? I made a mistake, so I take full effect of that. So with that said, going into episode 8, we kind of have to start wrapping up the story. We kind of have to start getting Jason 1 into the idea of him being back in this world, and we have to have Jason 2 be found out by, of course, Daniella 1, and of course his son Charlie, and that's exactly what happened in this episode. But thankfully, for the most part, it does a pretty competent job of getting us to that point, to the final moment of the last episode of the series or season, or however you want to look at it. And it is a little convoluted and a little confusing when it becomes so many Jasons thrown into the mix. I know a lot of people will like that and enjoy it, the idea of just so many Jasons, but it gets to a point where one Jason is dressed exactly like another Jason. He's wearing, the only thing that kind of differentiates the Jasons is just a different wear on their finger. One has, like I said, as you guys have pointed out, has a cast. One has Jason 1 has the rope ring. One has an actual ring. And there is a point where the only tells are those things outside of some different clothing changes. So it does get a little kind of like, I have to follow here, I have to follow here, I have to follow here. It's not that it doesn't do a competent job. It just feels like there's too many of these Jasons. You could have had like 2 or 3, but here we have like 6. And like one of them is killed off by Jason 2, another is killed off by Jason 2, and it leads to like the point where Daniella and Charlie are taken, they're rescued by a character that looks like Jason 1, and it's just a lot, to be fairly honest. It gets into a lot of convolution when it comes to the nature of what it's doing, and if you can follow it, that's perfectly fine. But this series has always been pretty good at giving us kind of the more layman's version of what this situation is, and here it is going full straight into the heady sci-fi, full straight into the complications of multi-dimensional theory and the superpositions, and it becomes a little too much, and it's just maybe my ignorance of not knowing too much about it. But I do appreciate that Jason 1, technically our Jason is the main protagonist. He's being followed, as we see, by another Jason. They finally see each other. He walks into a bar, and there's another Jason in there, which the bartender, the main bartender through the series, is never really kind of confused by it. I mean, he's confused in the simple fact of like the gun shop owner, and like, oh, you're back, you just got a beer, but it doesn't like strike like a lot of times when they do this in TV series where it feels like the character, like a side character, isn't very impacted by the situation, or doesn't really feel anything for the situation. So that's a little weird. But there is a nice little conversation between Jason 1 and the subtitle. I did watch this scene in the subtitles just to see which Jason this was. In the subtitles they give us for Apple TV Plus screeners, it doesn't specify which Jason it is. Maybe it does in the actual show that premieres on Apple TV Plus, like the actual for the public. But I do like the fact that we've learned now that Jason 1's kind of travels through the multi-dimensional cube, the superposition, the thing that Jason 2 had invented, has opened up this Pandora's box of just like different Jason 1s who have gone through different scenarios, but they've all been screwed over by Jason 2. But the question really is really interesting about the whole idea is this similar to what Jason 1, our Jason 1, I should say? It gets really, like I said, really confusing, but our Jason 1, is this these other Jasons going into this dimension thinking it's their dimension? Like, it becomes really confusing, to be fairly honest. Now we have a Jason 1 who claims he's Jason 1, but he's wearing different clothes and he has a ring on it. His Daniella died or something of that nature, and then his Amanda died, and they talk about Amanda and stuff like that. There's a lot going on there about, this version of Jason 1, the one that doesn't have the rope ring and stuff like that, and like, how's that going to play out? And, that version of Jason 1 with the blue corduroy or blue jean jacket is going to take out this Jason 1 to take Daniella 1. It's just like, oh my God, this is so much. I mean, it's interesting the way they talk and the way the kind of story plays out. But then you're having to follow Jason 2 being stalked by another Jason who thinks he's Jason 1 and he gets killed. And then you said you have another Jason 1 who's following Jason 2 again at the library of the school where Charlie's going to go. It's just like, to keep the pieces together, it's so much. I mean, I know the Jason 1 that follows him at the school is the one that we met in the pub, and the scenes there is cool with the idea of the simple fact of like, this Jason 1 is chasing after Jason 2. I mean, this is probably Jason 7 or Jason 6 or whatever, but to me personally, it's really difficult to keep up with what Jason's doing, which Jason's what. It's only the simple fact of like, because we're so used to the specific Jason that we're with, that these other Jasons, especially when, like, I said Daniella and Charlie are rescued by a Jason, she looks down and he's like hot wired with the screwdriver, the car, and that's an immediate like kind of a red flag for Daniella, because she knows that her Jason isn't capable of doing stuff like that, which maybe he is, but he's not capable of doing that kind of stuff. And on top of that, they've set up a password anyways, or a secret word of Jupiter, which is the title of the episode. But I just, once again, it's fine that they're doing this, but the establishment of this type of scenario comes at it could have happened like a couple episodes prior to give a little more story, a little more kind of breathing room, I guess you could say, because it feels like we're going full throttle into like this really crazy sci-fi scenario. But once again, I appreciate what Blake Crouch, I appreciate the fact that they're attempting to be unique in that perspective. It feels like they're going into Primer territory, the movie Primer, where things become so convoluted and so kind of so heady and so confusing so quickly that it becomes kind of like a marathon of trying to figure out who's who and what's what. And it also feels like a video game or something like that, or if you watch The Boys recently, the multiple man thing, where you're just throwing Jasons at you're throwing Jasons at the crowd and the public, and just seeing not what sticks, but seeing how many times you can kill a Jason. And I find that funny. It is unique and kind of humorous, but it becomes like really kind of, oh my God, it's just like we're in a video game now. It's Jason 1. It's like Scott Pilgrim versus the World or something like that, which it is what it is. But the real main storyline breaks down that, Daniella breaks into Jason 2's storage unit. She finds the phone because earlier she had talked to Ryan, who claims he's a mechanic, which he is, that he talked to someone he doesn't recognize. And of course, that person he doesn't recognize is, of course, Jason 2, who's brought him from this different world. I don't know what Jason 2 was thinking, to be fairly honest, because at some point he's like the smartest guy in the world. He's like one of the most athletic. He can kill Jasons left and right. He's like the Jason Bourne of this Jason world, but he's not smart enough to realize that this Ryan will never work in this society. It's like the flaws that are being presented are a little weird for this Jason. Like I get the mistakes of like the small details and differences that Daniella starts to know. Daniella 1 makes a lot of sense because the choices, like I said earlier, the choices we make will affect the outcome of our future and how we roll in the future and stuff like that. So let's say you did one little thing here, it's going to affect the future, but if you changed it and did something else differently, it's going to do that. That stuff makes sense, but it's like now he's making bigger and bigger mistakes, and it just feels kind of out of place for his character, who once again is like a ninja who can kill his own self, knows how to build this box and knows how to travel, but he's just not smart enough to realize that Ryan is going to be the wrong Ryan, and Daniella figures out, like I said, goes to the storage unit, and she realizes that something's going on. Of course, she gets a call from Jason 1, our Jason 1, who decided the only way to get a hold of Daniella is to go to a restaurant and smoke a cigar in the restaurant. And it's a pretty funny scene because Jason 1's always been kind of meekish in a lot of respects. He's been a family man, but for him to do something like this, it's, you know, out of character for him, but it's fun to watch. And he gets arrested, and he basically becomes a jerk, which is pretty funny. But, you know, he finally talks to Daniella and convinces her to call Jason 2, and Jason 2 answers. And because Jason 2 has killed the Jason in the school, you know, there's that whole big thing. And he basically, Jason 1, our Jason, tells her to, you know, go home, get Charlie, but tell Jason 2 that they want to go to whatever city or island that they'd never been to, just to kind of keep everything on the lowdown. And she of course goes. She basically is trying everything in her power not to make Jason 2 realize what's going on. And of course, the only way to do that is to kick him down the stairs, because it's the only way to get rid of him, to be fairly honest, so that she can get with Charlie to escape. And I love the tension of that scene because, you know, he can tell that there's something kind of wrong, but it's never on the tip of his tongue, to be fair. Or I should say it's on the tip of his tongue, but it's not entirely there, which has always been his problem. And once again, they basically go to meet Jason 1 at the famous Bean in Chicago, and that's kind of where the episode ends. And I really do enjoy this episode when it comes down to like what it's trying to do. I just think it gets a little confusing, a little convoluted when it comes to like what it's trying to accomplish. I think if you had one, maybe two other Jasons in this world, I think it would have been much easier to follow. But because, like I said, when they get in that accident, there's like two Jasons there, and nobody's like panicking about that, and it just, you know, I don't know. It's really weird to me, and it doesn't take away. And I know I'm gonna get a lot of hate comments for that, but it doesn't take away from like the episode. It just takes away from the fact that it can be really confusing and really kind of startling. And once again, it's a series that is trying unique stuff and trying to be interesting. And the other major problem is, where is Leighton? What is happening to Leighton? Leighton just kind of is bloody state at the end of like the third or fourth episode, and he's disappeared. It makes me wonder if like they're gonna, if these three individuals, as somebody made in the comments, you know, Jason 1, Daniella 1, and Charlie 1, are going to go to a new multiverse, a new universe, to get away from where they are. And is that where they're going to see Leighton? And, you know, could it be that, you know, Jason 1 dies or something like that, or Jason 2 follows them and Jason 2 is killed by Leighton? I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen because I have not seen the last episode, but yeah, I think it has some really fun moments, especially with like when Jason 1 meets the other Jason in the bar, and, you know, the uniqueness of like, how do you hide, like when things start spiraling out of control, how do you fix the problem? And of course, the only thing Jason 2 can think of is to run away, which I guess, sure, why not? But we'll see how episode 9 plays out. So overall thoughts, I enjoy the episode. I think it struggles and is very weighted in some problems when it comes to how many characters you have to keep up with. But like I said, people will feel differently, as they have in the comments. So that's perfectly all right. But with that said, that'll do it. That would be my take on this episode. I'll give it, you know, an 8 out of 10. I think it's still a competent episode. It's still a fun episode. Definitely better than last week's episode. And yeah. So there you go. With that said, that'll do it. That'll be my take on episode 8 of Dark Matter, which is called Jupiter. Thank you so much for watching. Comments below. You know, if you wanna rake me around the coals, that's perfectly all right. But if you're interested, just let me know what you think of the episode. Did you like it or did you not like it? Were you able to follow the characters pretty easily? You know, whatever. Let me know. I'll comment if it's not too terrible. But anyways, with that said, thank you so much for watching. If you like what you see on the channel, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming next. If you like this video, awesome. Hit that like button, and we'll see you for the final episode of Dark Matter next week. Peace out, guys.